Dub Nation. Time for the real and inside story on Warriors basketball.
Curry sidestep, Curry drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Pajemski, there's rebound number 10. They're showing they can win a game without shooting a three ball well. Do your damage inside. Klay Thompson for three. Good time. Another loony monster bone-crushing screen. Kind of an ugly first quarter and then dominance in the second, third, and fourth. The Dubs have won 5 in a row. They've won 8 straight at Chase Center. They'll head to Denver to take on the defending champs on Christmas.
You like that? You like that?
Yeah, Warrior fans are liking that. Fitz mentioning the ugly first quarter. Warriors trailed 30-23 at the end of the quarter. 9 turnovers for Golden State in the first quarter. But the Warriors able to clean things up from there. They go on to roll 126-106 over the Portland Trailblazers. So the Warriors now with 8 straight wins at home and 5 consecutive wins overall. We welcome you inside Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR, as the Warriors find themselves now back at a game over 500, 15-14, and they handle business tonight against Portland. Really handle business the last couple of nights, both in beating the Washington Wizards and tonight beating the Portland Trailblazers for the third time in basically 2.5 weeks. When you look at the game that was added to the schedule based on the in-season tournament results, and then the 2 games that had been scheduled, Sunday, where the Warriors got the win and had to eke that one out in Portland, and then again blowing the Blazers out 126-106. So 808 KNBR, appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as well. Appreciate everybody listening here on The Sports Leader. If you're leaving Chase Center, 808 KNBR is the number to participate in the program. You can give me a call or shoot me a text as the Warriors continuing to be led by Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, along with the core of young players. That's right. Steph and Klay getting the job done again. Klay Thompson is hot. 28 points for Klay, 6 of 10 from 3, 11 of 16 overall. This is basically 6 consecutive really good games for Klay Thompson. Stephen Curry, 27. And the Warriors, when they flipped this game, they did it on a monster quarter number 2, and Stephen Curry was right in the middle of that second quarter. 34-16 Warriors in quarter number 2, and the Warriors basically won this game with their second quarter and really with the run that they went on from late in the first quarter when the Warriors found themselves down 11 at 30-19. It was a wrap from there because the Warriors were able to go on a big-time run from that point on to take control of the game. It was a 15-3 run that turned into a 23-9 run that turned into a 31-11 run and a 38-16 overall to go with the 34-16. So final 4 of the first quarter and then the 34-16 in the second quarter. And this game pretty much was on cruise control for Golden State throughout the second half, although it hung there in the third quarter around 10 to 14 points. In terms of the margin, but the Warriors maybe missing an opportunity in the third quarter to really put the game away and turn it into a blowout at that point. But top of the fourth quarter, the Warriors were able to put the Portland Trail Blazers away and ultimately not have to sweat it out really in either of these last couple of games after having to sweat out every game for basically a month against everybody, and they were winning some, they're losing some, and again, we talked about it on this very program on Tuesday when the Warriors were able to come back against the Celtics, who have done nothing but handle business against 2 teams that are having pretty good starts to their seasons. The Celtics went after blowing that lead to the Warriors and thumped Sacramento, put 140-plus on them, and then put 140-plus on the Clippers earlier this afternoon. So the Warriors handling business against a team that played has been as good as anybody in the NBA to this point, and then make it stand up. That was the game that flipped the week for the Warriors because as you looked at it, you thought, and we talked about it a week ago, that the best case scenario And really the necessary scenario for the Warriors was going to have to be winning 4 of 5. I called for it going back to L.A. And the first game with the lineup changes and Draymond Green's suspension beginning, and the Warriors lose that game. And so going into the game a week ago when Brooklyn was in town to take on the Dubs, it basically became, all right, you're 4 games under 500. You have to get your way out of that hole. And the only way to get your way out of that hole was basically to go 4-1. And to me, the Brooklyn game, the 2 Portland games, the Washington game, those were all must wins. And the Warriors got all 4, but the game that really flipped the script on the whole week was the rally and the overtime thriller against Boston. Now, not only are you back to 500, but you're a game over 500. And the vibe for this Warriors team has completely changed. And again, it is another night where you look at, yes, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson leading the way, but it's the young player. It's Trayce Jackson-Davis now for a 4th consecutive game having a monster impact, even though he only played 17 minutes. But 5 rebounds and 3 assists, and he's getting buckets in the paint. A hell of a night for Trayce Jackson-Davis. A hell of a night for Brandon Podziemski, who was flirting with a triple-double throughout the course of this one. Finishes with 15 and 10 in the rebounding category, and then 7 assists. So Brandon Podziemski playing excellent basketball. Really, the only thing Podziemski didn't do well tonight was shoot the 3. He did everything else exceptionally well. Involved defensively, keeping the ball moving, and just a great night for Brandon Podziemski for the Warriors. And, Jonathan Kuminga, nice 11, 6, and 5 game, but this wasn't the explosive, great Jonathan Kuminga game that we've grown accustomed to seeing here over the last couple of weeks, but Moses Moody was solid. And Dario Saric did his thing. And Podziemski kind of offset some of the offense that Jonathan Kuminga had been giving the Warriors of late, and then you add it all up, and the Warriors are able to get the win 126-106. So they're 15 and 14. Again, 8 in a row at home, 5 in a row overall to get to a game over 500. And now, a lot of people talking and appreciated on the YouTube chat. A lot of the conversation is, well, the schedule's getting a little bit easier. Yeah, the schedule is getting a little bit easier, but the Warriors are getting wins that they absolutely have to have. And so the tests are coming. And the tests are coming here over the next 3 games. But to be honest, the Warriors needed to stack some wins together before they started to go through another stretch where they're playing some good or really good teams. And that's exactly the stretch that's coming up Christmas morning when the Warriors are going to take on the Nuggets. Then a couple of days off again before they play Miami at Chase on Thursday, then the Dallas Mavericks a week from tonight. So the challenges for Golden State are ahead. But this team was in dire need of momentum, in dire need of stringing a few together, and the Warriors have been able to do that without Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green. The lineup changes continue to work for Steve Kerr. And one of the things that I wanted to get into tonight at 808 KNBR and on the YouTube and Twitch chat is the conversation that happened before the game, because I think it relates to what happened in the game and where the Warriors are ahead, looking ahead at things that are coming up. And so the chatter was basically about the Warriors for the first time, seemingly since they were 8-2, having a calm, orderly, organized rotation. Right? Same starting lineup now for this last 6 games. Warriors are 5-1. Basically, with the insertion of Trayce Jackson-Davis in the game against Portland and him giving his opportunity and playing 4 straight really good games, the Warriors know their group right now. It's Steph, it's Klay, it's Podziemski, it's Looney, it's Kuminga. Chris Paul knows his role. Trayce Jackson-Davis knows he's going to play. Moses Moody's getting some backup minutes. Dario Saric is going to play some 4 and 5. And basically that's the 9, with everybody else getting mop-up duty. And I think Steve Kerr, in a perfect world, would prefer to play 9. Well, the conversation pregame, and Greg, let me know if we have this racked up, because I did want to get into it here, even in the opening segment of Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. So, yeah, it was a couple of clips, and we have this as 2 clips, basically. Okay, so 2 clips, basically. The first clip is about the Warriors basically having a set rotation and the mix of experience and youth. But really, this was what Steve Kerr had to say about the Warriors' rotation as it stands right now.
Well, it's right now it's set, but then we got Gary coming back, we got Draymond coming back. Wiggs will come back. So we have more good players than rotation spots, which is a good problem to have, but it's not easy for the players themselves. So we have to continue to encourage the guys to just compete and recognize that their chance will come if they stay patient. But that's not an easy thing to convince guys of in the NBA.
So there you go. The Warriors have more good players than rotation spots, and basically the rotation set, as we just discussed, with those 9 players. But then he says GP2's coming back, and we know Draymond's coming back at some point, and Andrew Wiggins has missed the last couple of games due to illness, so he had been playing better in the bench role overall than he had been as a starter, but he's coming back in short order, probably Monday morning when the Warriors play the Nuggets, if not Monday, for sure on Thursday when they're back at it at Chase Center against the Miami Heat to close out the final couple of games of 2023. So the question becomes, and again, Steve Kerr's phrasing it as a nice problem to have, which I get, and already on the YouTube chat, Queen of Noise saying, we so deep, and the Warriors are deep. But what the Warriors have had a problem with, to be blunt about it, is when they've had everybody finding the right combinations to play on a given night to earn wins consistently. And the only other time the Warriors basically had a rotation that was simplified was those first 8 to 9 games, when you knew basically it was Steph and it was Clay and it was Wiggins and Draymond and Looney. And at that point, it was Saric that was going to get time. It was Kuminga that was going to get time. It was Moody that was going to get time. And it was Chris Paul that was going to get time. And Kuminga's time was iffy based on everybody else. And GP2 was also in that mix. And I think GP2's time was impacting it. But you knew Podziemski wasn't a part of that, and Trace Jackson-Davis wasn't a part of it. And there were a lot of nights where Kuminga was a part of it, but not a major part of it. So when you hear Steve Kerr say it, and Greg, I want to rack the same cut up again, because I want to kind of dissect it in greater detail here. Same cut again from Steve Kerr pregame, and I want to touch specifically because as people react to it, 808 KNBR is the number, because I think Steve Kerr is in some ways, he's addressing a problem that he really didn't need to address tonight. But the question came up, and I think it kind of sets the table for how this team's going to be evaluated moving forward and how they're evaluated as things continue to progress and the Warriors do start to get the players that are out back into the fold. So let's run it again. Steve Kerr pregame tonight over at Chase talking about the Warriors rotation.
Well, it's right now it's set, but then we got Gary coming back, we got Draymond coming back. Wiggs will come back. So we have more good players than rotation spots, which is a good problem to have, but it's not easy for the players themselves. So we have to continue to encourage the guys to just compete and recognize that their chance will come if they stay patient. But that's not an easy thing to convince guys of in the NBA.
Okay, so what does he mean there? What does Steve Kerr mean that that GP2 and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins are going to have to get in line behind the players that have helped lead the Warriors to this 5-game winning streak? Or does he mean that players that have been contributing to the Warriors winning are going to have to basically accept the fact that maybe they're not going to get the run that they had been getting because there are some championship core players that are going to be coming back into the fold? 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. You can give me a call or shoot me a text here on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD on a Saturday night. Warriors get the win over the Blazers, 126-106. So they're a game over 500 as the team will head to Denver for the Christmas morning and early afternoon matchup against the Nuggets. Nice win for Golden State. They were down 7 into the first quarter, flipped the game basically with a massive second quarter, cut out the turnovers, and the talent basically rang out with them being the far superior team over the young and rebuilding Portland Trailblazers squad. But to me, another night where it's Steph, Clay, and basically the young guys leading the way. I think the bigger headlines come from the pregame press conference and Steve Kerr and what he had to say. So how do you handle this thing if you're the Warriors now? Does GP2 and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins have to take a little bit of a back seat? I think the answer is easy, to be perfectly honest at this point. Now, how many games are the Warriors going to play with this group between now and when those guys actually come back? And we're talking about all 3 of them. Because Andrew Wiggins had been a more limited member of the Warriors rotation of late. So Wiggins can get plugged back in, and I don't think it's going to affect a whole heck of a lot. And Wiggins was starting to play better basketball, including finishing some games because he was playing well. So I think Wiggins was on the right path before the illness. You can probably fit one more guy into the mix, and I don't think that's going to necessarily set anybody off a bad course. Maybe it's a couple minutes less for Kuminga if Kuminga's not playing well. Maybe it's a couple minutes less for Moody. Moody had one of his better games tonight than he's had lately. Basically, he's been sort of the odd man out as far as the younger players. Kuminga and Trace Jackson-Davis and Podziemski had been playing, for the most part, exceptional. Moody hadn't quite been playing at that level, so Moody hadn't quite been playing as much. So I don't think Wiggins is the really the one that's going to upset the apple cart that much. But GP2 basically plays the 4 for the Warriors on offense. At least he did. And he plays the 1, 1, 2, 3, wherever on defense. And the Warriors had tinkered with some different combinations to get GP2 out there. And GP2 is somebody that probably needs to be out there, especially with the Warriors going up against playoff caliber teams. The real question is, how do you work Draymond back in? And again, we talked about it last night. We're probably still at least 3 weeks away from that. At least 2.5 to 3 weeks away from that. And hell, I'm talking about the guys that aren't playing that are coming back. And we got people on the YouTube chat that are saying, forget all of that. Trace Jackson-Davis should be starting now as is. Kevon Looney played better tonight. Better matchup for him going up against Ayton. And I don't think Steve Kerr's going to mess with that at this point in time. Now, Looney may get his 5-6 minutes at the beginning of the game or the beginning of each half, and that's going to be it. But the question that's lingering here, and it doesn't necessarily have to be answered by Steve Kerr now, although we can kick it around at 808 KNBR. How do you work Gary Payton II back in? How do you work Draymond Green back in? How do you work Andrew Wiggins back in? And again, maybe between now and when that happens, these guys are not playing at the level that they're playing right now, or the opponent level of competition changes and everything sort of handles itself. But I couldn't quite get the read for Steve Kerr as far as, was he saying the vets are going to have to take a back seat until opportunity arises? Or was he saying that the young players that have been contributing to at a high level toward winning are going to have to take a back seat because the vets are coming back and the vets are taking their spots back? good conversation to get into. We're going to hear more from Steve Kerr as well from his pregame press conference, because he said something that actually made my jaw drop, and I want to play it for you coming up. So 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. Appreciate everybody on YouTube and Twitch. What do the Warriors do if you're leaving Chase as they reacclimate some of the veteran players back into the fold when this team right now is being carried by Steph, Clay, and basically Podziemski, Kuminga, and Trace Jackson Davis over the course of this week? Warriors have won 5 in a row. It's 8 in a row at home. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
It's a great holiday.
Back with more Blue and Gold. This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Klay Thompson, bottoms of three. Klay does that where he stops in no man's land in between a switch. He finds just a little bit of space. You know he doesn't need much. Looney tipping it. Looney again. Another opportunity. Setting up Klay for three. Kevon Looney doing it all on the glass, and Portland will take time. And Looney led Klay perfectly into that shot. Klay Thompson, another three. Okay, get hot. He's 1 point away from passing Jay Rich for 169th in NBA scoring. That's big. I love Jay Rich. I do too.
Yeah, Klay Thompson getting the job done. And getting it done efficiently. 28 points to lead the way for the Warriors as they win 126-106 over the Blazers. We welcome you back. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR if you're leaving Chase. As the Warriors now 15-14, 8 in a row at home, 5 in a row overall to get back over 500. And I'll be the first one to admit, I didn't think the Warriors were going to be over 500 by Christmas. Not when they were 10-14. I really didn't. I would have thought that 4-1 over the course of the last week was probably the ceiling for this Warriors team, but they handle business tonight. They get the job done against Brooklyn and Washington, as well as the game up in Portland on Sunday, and then they're able to beat the Celtics, rallying in that thriller on Tuesday. And just like that, this team is as hot as they've been at any point in the not so early going of this season anymore, because we are past now the 1/3 mark of the season. Actually went past that last night with this Warriors team now 29 games in to this season. And next up will be the defending champion Nuggets, the teams that have won the last 2 NBA championships, going at it on the Christmas holiday. And that will be one of the just fire matchups of the NBA slate. As it always is. So 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR here on the Sports Leader. And just pausing here to ask the question in the opening segment about what the Warriors do, because this is another night where the young players, along with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, lead the way. And I think you could make the case, and I was not the first one to do this, it's been kind of making the rounds. This team is benefiting from Draymond Green's energy not being around. it's benefiting from some youthful exuberance, being able to be in the fold and at the forefront. Now, that's not to say the Warriors are, and I want to be very clear, I'm not saying the Warriors are better without Draymond Green, although the streets are saying that. The streets are absolutely saying it. But that's not where I'm going with this thing. Where I'm going with this thing is the Warriors are benefiting in a big way from basically a Draymond respite, considering everything else that was going on surrounding him so far this season and has been surrounding him really going back to the playoffs and even portions of last season, dating all the way back to the punch and Jordan Poole and all of that. But how do you play everybody when part of the success here as this team has gotten hot is the fact that Trayce Jackson-Davis now knows he's going to get 17 to 25 minutes a night, and Jonathan Kuminga played 30 up in the 25-plus range as opposed to 17 to 22 or 25. The one thing we know about this Warriors team is when they've had everybody and Steve Kerr's tried to play everybody and figure out minutes and roles and extended rotate, like the 11, 12-man rotation really hasn't worked. It really hasn't, because the young players probably haven't played enough to be able to really get opportunities to shine. But yet you're riding the veterans who have proven their way as champions, and it's just been a difficult balance. So if there's people out there that are saying, well, you just play everybody. You can't play everybody. You can't play 12. And that's basically what you'd be talking about doing, playing 12, if you have the 9 that played tonight with Steph and Clay and Podziemski and Kuminga and Looney, Chris Paul, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Moses Moody, Dario Saric, those 9, and then you start playing GP, Dre, and Wiggins. You're playing 12, but then nobody's really getting enough run to stretch their legs or to spread their wings. And I just think the Warriors have not operated in a real efficient manner when they've done that. So how do the Warriors navigate it, I think, now becomes the key question as to how this team can continue to ascend in the Western Conference and over the NBA landscape as a whole. All right, I want to play the other cut from Steve Kerr's pregame press conference, because I got to think this one's got Dub Nation a little angry. And my jaw dropped, frankly, when I heard it. And I was standing in the back of the press conference room. And look, there's nothing crazy about this. There really isn't. And if you're listening, you can understand it's a very appropriate explanation as to what's going on. But for those that have been screaming for the young players to be playing and playing immediately, stay safe out there as I roll this one for you. But yeah, here's what Steve Kerr had to say. It was a question about Trayce Jackson-Davis and Brandon Podziemski specifically when he realized that they were able to contribute to this Warriors team.
We could see in camp that both guys were ready to contribute. It was more a matter of, were they going to overtake the veterans who were ahead of them? Were they going to be able to maneuver their way into the lineup? I mean, there's a reason we didn't hand them jobs to start the season. It doesn't work that way. If you did that, you'd have a revolt on your hands. I mean, you have to honor the work that the veterans have done in the past. You give them every opportunity, which we did. But while that was all happening, those two young guys were really shining. And I was there for the opening night of the G League in Santa Cruz, and both guys were just dominant out there. So you could see, early on that they were ready to play. But they've made their way into the rotation based on a number of factors. But ultimately, the only way to get there is if you're good enough, and they're both good enough, obviously.
And that's the key point, is the fact that they are both good enough. But I think a lot of Warrior fans are thinking, well, wait a minute, if they were good enough at the beginning of the year, then why in the hell were they not out there? And, Steve Kerr explained, but I think a lot of Warrior fans are thinking that he rode the veterans too long. And I think maybe he did. And I think there's a lot of Warrior fans that are looking at Steve Kerr, and they're not right now, frankly, willing to give him the credit for going to these guys. They're saying, hey, this is happening by circumstance. And Draymond's out and Wiggins is sick and GP2's missed the last almost 4 weeks now, coming up on Tuesday. And so some of these decisions are easy. Now Kerr did still flip the starting lineup around. He did take Wiggins out of the starting lineup. He did mix things up, and I think was intent on mixing things up on that front, even if Draymond Green had continued to play. But yeah, and San Jose Jazz fan on the YouTube chat, LOL. If they made their way into the rotation through a number of factors. Yeah, injury and Draymond suspension and showing that they had the ability to do it in the preseason. But I don't know. I thought that was pretty telling because it was apparent that Steve Kerr really liked Podziemski even in the preseason and that he had made a significant jump from the summer league to the preseason. And they even played him a little bit as a backup point guard in the preseason. Now, they haven't done that in the regular season, but you could tell they were giving him, seeing how he would handle it. And Trayce Jackson-Davis was, I think, in some limited minutes, a positive factor when he did get opportunities. But basically, both those guys were the 11th and 12th men on this Warriors team at the beginning of the season when they were fully healthy. They weren't playing every night, but they were basically a step away from playing every night. If somebody was injured, if somebody was out, then those guys were getting opportunities to get out there and play. But it's quite the conundrum for the Warriors moving forward as to how they look to get everybody involved. Now, I said before the break that I think it's an easy answer, and I really do still believe that it is an easy answer. I think you got to ride it out with the guys that are playing well for as long as you possibly can. They've won 5 straight games. They found a way to beat Boston. I know a lot of people are saying, well, they're beating a bunch of crappy teams. And for the most part, that's true. They beat Portland twice. They stink. Washington's even worse, although Washington did beat Portland a couple nights ago up north. But both of these teams, you can't be losing to Portland or Washington at all this year. You basically have to go 6-0 against those teams. 4 against Portland, and the Warriors have already banked 3 of those, and then 2 against Washington. They've already banked the first one of the 2. They'll play them again later in the year, the end of February, I believe. So you gotta handle business there. But the ability to be able to do that again with the young players contributing is still a big-time positive, and I'm excited to see how they do against Denver and Miami and Dallas in the next 3, and then Orlando and Denver after that. Orlando's having themselves a nice year. That game's no picnic, and the Warriors should know that because Orlando swept the Warriors last year when the Magic weren't good, let alone a 17-11 team that comes into play tonight. So 808 KNBR is the number. I think the decision is easy. Wiggins was already coming off the bench. Gary Payton II was already coming off the bench. You take all the time in the world to make sure that he's fully healthy. I mean, initially you thought that his injury could be months, and now it's going to turn out to be basically closer to a month or maybe a little bit more. But I think the crux of what we're talking about is Draymond is going to have to come off the bench if this continues. Because you're basically playing Looney at the start, and Looney was better tonight. You're playing Saric, who's getting opportunities, I think, because of Trayce Jackson-Davis and the way those two complement each other, TJD and Saric specifically. Saric can play the 4 with Trayce Jackson-Davis at the 5. Saric, I think the Warriors are a little uncomfortable with him playing. I know a lot of people are saying, well, they should be uncomfortable with him playing the 5 because defensively the numbers are pretty bad when he plays the 5. But Saric and Trayce Jackson-Davis can play together with, basically Jackson-Davis able to switch out and move his feet and protect the rim and do all those things defensively. And it takes a little of the heat off of Saric, and you got Saric who can shoot the ball from the outside. They're a nice complementary pair in the front court. But because Wiggins is out, Saric is more apt to play a little bit more of the backup four, so it works, it fits. You get Wiggins back and you get Draymond back, and then that combo, maybe you're not as willing to play as much as you're open to playing it right now. But I think the answer to the question is easy in the sense, and I think when you hear what Steve Kerr said about some players just having to sit tight and wait for their opportunity, I think everybody interprets that as Steve Kerr talking about the young players having to wait and sit tight for their opportunity. But I think in this particular instance, it may be the veteran players. It may be Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green not getting the minutes that they're used to. Again, still part of the rotation, but having to get in to fit in and figure out ways to complement until they are needed again for a bigger role. Because here's the reality. The Warriors have found something here with the young players as far as regular season success goes. Days on the YouTube chat, and we get to the YouTube chat here on the Sports Leader, you can kill a lot of confidence in your young players if you go to the older, less successful lineup. I think that point is spot freaking on, Days. And that was the thought that has paralyzed me to a certain extent in sort of thinking this thing through, because I think that conversation and what happened before the game was probably more important than anything happened during the game tonight, with the Warriors able to win in the manner that they did. And my thought was exactly what you just said, Days. You can't kill Kuminga's confidence by saying Draymond's back in the starting lineup immediately once he returns. Because here's the thing, Jonathan Kuminga has really struggled to fit his game into a box. He has really struggled because he's played, I think, close to this level that he's played the last 10 games. At other times when the Warriors have been shorthanded and he's had to play a little bit more and he's had that freedom. The problem has been he really has not been a great role player when everybody's been whole and he's been cast as a 15 to 20 minute a game guy as basically the 8th or the 9th man. So then it creates this conundrum of, and I think this is why there's been times where he's found his way out of the rotation, including in the playoffs last year. If he can't be effective in 15 minutes, then can you play him at all? Because in the playoffs, a bad 6-7 minute stretch will get you killed. And that's exactly what was happening in that Sacramento series, specifically to Kuminga. Like, he could not. Wiggins was back. GP2 was back. He was asked to play basically a couple of 6 to 8 minute stretches in each half, and he couldn't do it. So you don't want to wreck the confidence of Kuminga. You don't want to wreck the confidence of Trayce Jackson-Davis when he's coming in and contributing. And really, I think the guy you're probably the most worried about is Kuminga in that respect. I think Trayce Jackson-Davis can handle it. I think Podziemski can handle it. Kuminga's the guy that, to me, is the one where it sways a little bit. Because Kuminga does, I think, get his dauber down when he doesn't get opportunities. And I think he gets his dauber down even when he's not scoring. I think the Warriors love the other things, and he had 5 assists tonight and 6 boards, and he's been flying around more. I think Kuminga's motor the last 3 weeks basically has been just tremendous. I think that's why he's been out there and continuing to be out there. Like, I think Kuminga's played as well in the last 3 weeks as he has at any point in his young NBA career, and has earned the opportunity to get more time. But he's been able to play with better players and flourish, and I think you can see that he's just happier. Can you fit that in the context of everybody else and having everybody? Because we can talk about how this team is deep, and they are, but how do the pieces fit when they're whole, I think, becomes the question that really needs to be evaluated, because this team has not, I think, maximized their talent when they've been whole. And you can say, well, JD, that's the veterans part. That's the veterans that have screwed that up. Okay, maybe that's even right. I'm not even necessarily going to argue with that. And I think this season, after the 6-2 start, it really has been the veterans that have been the bigger problem. But Klay Thompson's coming around. Andrew Wiggins hasn't quite found it yet. And Draymond Green's still been a winning player when he's been available. Mike Dunleavy Jr. would tell you that flat out. So the question becomes, how do the pieces fit when you're whole? 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. It's John Dickinson on The Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD. Warriors did win tonight at Chase, 126-106, behind 28 from Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's on fire. After the slow start, and really it was beyond a slow start, but he's getting it together, and he's taking better shots, and the Warriors are better for it. Steph is back to where Steph has been. But it's been Kuminga and it's been Podziemski, and tonight I think more Podziemski than anybody. But it's been Podziemski, Kuminga, and Trayce Jackson-Davis who have been the three who have really, really, really helped this team flourish, and they deserve to be on the court. Flat out, they deserve to be on the court and continue to get opportunities to help this team win. Jimbo checking in on the YouTube chat. I want to get to some of these in the chat. Jimbo, Kuminga has learned how to play the game the right way. I think he's definitely getting there. I think he's showing some legitimate signs of doing the things in the manner that he needs to do to be able to be a quality rotation role player. It's never been, and I'm going to say this on every show, it's never been about Kuminga's ceiling. The issue has never been what Kuminga can be eventually. The question is, can he be a role player on this team? And he's showing that he can be a role player on this team. And I think, yes, he is learning how to play the game the right way. Douglas Mike, imagine how good the Warriors would be if Wiggins was playing to his potential. Hopefully he does. Well, they're going to need him at some point. They absolutely will need Andrew Wiggins at some point, and I do think Wiggins, up until the illness, was playing better as a bench player. Another one from Jimbo checking in. Yes, it's important that Steve's finding out he can really count on the young guys. The vets are his security blanket. He's going to have to be more comfortable not playing the vets in individual games if the young players are rolling. And I think he's going to have to take the approach of that the young players have earned their opportunity and this team has done well enough without some of the veteran players being as significant a part of it as they have been recently, to where the young guys are going to get the leash to be able to work through some mistakes. Should we start thinking about trading Moody? The guy can't get a lot of minutes outside of mop-up, outside of garbage time, even with GP2, Draymond, and Wiggins out. Now, he's playing 17 minutes. I mean, look, I think Moody's been fine. I think his value's probably down because he hasn't played as well as the other three. But Moses Moody's somebody that has shown that he can be trusted in playoff games, so I'd be reluctant to move on from Moses Moody. Rich Ray in the YouTube chat. Johnny D. Warriors have found something. Start Saric, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Kuminga, and the Splash Brothers. They don't want to play Kuminga at the 3. So, I do still think people, that's the one thing I don't think people realize. They don't want to play Kuminga at the 3. Kuminga is thriving because they're playing him at the 4. And that's okay. That I do think is his best position. All right, 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. Warriors win 126-106, but the bigger picture question is, what do the Warriors do when Gary Payton II returns? What do the Warriors do when Draymond Green returns? What do the Warriors do when Andrew Wiggins returns? We'll continue that conversation. We also will hear from the Warriors locker room in the postgame press conferences over at Chase. It's Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
home of the NFL playoffs.
Playoffs? You kidding me?
KNBR and KNBR FM.
Playoffs?
San Francisco. Hoops Heads, Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps ballin'. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Nowhere to go. Curry bailed him out, put it up and in. You got to be kidding me. How does he do that? We want Jeremy Grant on Curry. Kuminga came to help and bother him and took it away with a jump ball. That's bully ball. That's precision, too, to just snatch the ball without getting any hand or arm.
You see Looney right there, just tell JK. Great awareness.
Chase Jackson Davis, rookie to rookie on the run out. Podziemski's got the goggles up. Showtime.
Podziemski, open three.
And now they're clicking. I'm telling you. 11 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists for Brandon. This team is deep. This team is fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. At least of late, they have been fun to watch. Warriors get the win tonight, 126-106. We welcome you back, Dubs OT with JD. Love a good Wham Christmas. Appreciate the George Michael, Craig Silver, and the ones and twos here on the Sports Leader. Getting into the holiday spirit. Warriors feeling a lot more festive. 5 in a row overall, 8 in a row now at home, and the Warriors handle their business by beating the Blazers 126-106. Denver on Monday. That'll be a good one. And it'll be a good test, I think, for not only Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga, but Trace Jackson Davis as well, going up against Nikola Jokic. That's going to be a true test. And you're going to need all hands on deck for that one anyway. You're going to need Looney. You're going to need Saric. You wish you probably had Draymond Green back to try and defend Jokic a little bit, but you're not going to have him. And you're not going to have him for a couple of weeks. You're not going to have him really for 2 matchups coming up against Denver because the Warriors play Denver in San Francisco on January the 4th. So these two teams are going to face each other a couple of times over the next couple of weeks. So Trace Jackson Davis is going to get an opportunity. And one thing that I would have thought to be concerning about Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis, if they were going to start playing regular minutes, was foul trouble. And I think the two of them have pretty much not had that be a problem. But going up against Jokic, we'll see. But again, that's part of the fun of everything that's going on here for this Warriors team is they are going to get tested. The Warriors were able to get their bearings against some bad teams, and now they're going to be tested against some good teams. But you'd much rather be playing those good teams from a position of 1 game over 500 than 3-4 games under 500, which is where the Warriors were a week ago. 808 KNBR is the number. A lot of people on the YouTube chat, and appreciate everybody watching here on the KNBR YouTube page, on YouTube and Twitch as well. Good crowd as always, and the chat is lively, and a lot of people on the chat talking about the challenge ahead for Trace Jackson Davis. And that's basically Monday going up against Nikola Jokic. So that's going to be fun to watch. Fun to watch. Let's see how this Warriors team does rolling into Denver. Nuggets are going to be a team that's going to be they're going to be coming off of, they won in Charlotte tonight, but they're going to be coming off of an Eastern road trip for what will be a 12:30 game on Monday. So basically the Warriors head to Denver tomorrow, but that's going to be, sometimes teams can be a little sluggish that first game off of that long road trip. And especially with it being an afternoon game as the first game. I mean, that's almost like a baseball schedule, right? Where the team has to play the night game the night before. And then, that's as close to a back-to-back. And the Nuggets, as much as they're used to the altitude and all of that, they're going to have to kind of reacclimate tomorrow to get out there. So I think there's a sneaky opportunity for the Warriors to go in there and be the team that's maybe humming a little bit at the beginning of that one. But the Nuggets are playing really good basketball, 21-10 overall. They've won 4 in a row. Jokic has just been a monster. And, yeah, they went right through Toronto and Brooklyn and Charlotte in what was a 3-game roadie for them before they come back and take on the Warriors coming up on Monday. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR, as the Warriors get the win in this one. Greg, let's go ahead and roll into Sounds of Silver here on the Sports Leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the Sounds of Silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Greg Silver, the fine producer of this program and co-host of the Just Dubs podcast, which we had to push back, trying to keep the pipes ready to get through the holiday season here. So we were going to drop one today, but with the back-to-back and the Warriors playing tonight, we're going to wait for the next little break in the schedule. So the next Just Dubs is going to be out on Tuesday, and then of course it's coming to a Saturday morning near you here on the Sports Leader in January. But yeah, Greg doing a wonderful job behind the glass. The great Raph is here as well, and yeah, cutting through the post-game sound. Appreciate it.
Well, first of all, talking is hard, okay? I think everyone needs to understand how hard it is to talk as much as you have, JD, doing the 2 to 6 show back-to-back days, Dubs OT back-to-back nights. We are putting in work. But the real workhorse is Raph over there, who has been cutting up the sound and making it perfect as I have combed through it. And we got some great cuts to get to. I mean, I do something for producing, maybe look at a couple of YouTube chats, and next thing I know, there's like 4 more cuts. I can't keep up with his genius. So we're going to start with Steve Kerr, because one guy that was awesome tonight, but a little bit of an unsung hero, was Kevon Looney. Looney has not always been the blow you away kind of figure. I mean, he's had a couple of 20-rebound playoff games. Obviously, in the series against Sacramento last year was phenomenal. But for the most part, he's just a very solid, steady presence. Looney tonight went back to his solid, steady presence in a very positive way, warranting the phrase Looney is life. And Steve Kerr was very complimentary of Kevon Looney. And before I play the cut, I just want to say that this type of sound that you're about to hear might provide a little insight into why he said what he said in the pregame, which is not to demean the young players that are providing a much-needed spark for this Warriors team. But in general, if you look at the history of any championship team, any dynasty, there will always be a very strong loyalty to people that brought you championships. So Kevon Looney is a big part of a championship team, and Steve Kerr is someone who recognizes that. Let's hear what he says about his leadership despite having a few games where he struggled.
Yeah, the vibe is good. We have a lot of leadership in the locker room. And I think, the guy I want to point out tonight is Kevon. The last 4 games or so haven't gone his way at all. Trace has played so well. So a lot of Loon's minutes have gone to Trace. And every single night, every day at practice, he's a rock. He's leading. He's been great on the bench, advising guys, giving advice during timeouts, cheering them on when they're playing well. I think, the true definition of a leader is someone who leads when things aren't going well for himself. And that's what makes Loon so special, is that's who he is. And then you just know that things are going to turn back around like they did tonight. He had 11 boards, 7 assists. I thought he was fantastic tonight, and that's who he's been his whole career. Just totally professional, kind of an old soul, a lot of wisdom, and steady as they come. So we're lucky to have Loon.
Yeah, there's no doubt the Warriors are lucky to have him, and there are going to be games where they're really going to need him, and they needed him tonight with the DeAndre Ayton matchup, and he was there for him. Didn't play a ton of minutes tonight, but 22 and moving the ball with the 7 assists and 11 boards and just impactful defensively. And so they're going to really need him Monday. I mean, for all of the conversation about Trace Jackson Davis who's going to get his shots against the Joker, they're going to need Kevon Looney. And so, Looney is sort of, and I think Steve Kerr alluded to why, he's a great guy to have around because he's somebody that cannot play a lot of minutes and still help everybody else and help the overall chemistry of the team and stay ready. And so I think that's where the Warriors are finding themselves, I think, with a lot of these veteran players right now, is if guys aren't playing well, they need to maybe take their seat, but keep the good attitude up and know that those opportunities are still going to come. As Steve Kerr has to kind of go through everything on a night-to-night basis and try and find, Greg, the right combinations. What else we got?
Well, we're going to hear one more from Steve Kerr because a lot of people talked about in this postgame the ball movement. Season high, 38 team assists tonight, and how fun that was to get back to that Warriors basketball that got them to the top of the league at the beginning of this Steve Kerr coaching era with the blossoming of this core, of course. So one more from Steve Kerr, and it's something that has been talked about a few times now because this player has had 5 really good games in a row. Leading scorer tonight, Klay Thompson, 28 points, plus minus a 14, 11 of 16 shooting, 60% from beyond the arc, and he just said it's as simple as shot selection. So let's hear Steve Kerr talking about number 11.
Shot selection is the biggest thing with Klay. I think over the last 5 games, he's just taking better shots, and as a result, our team is more settled. We just feel like we're operating more efficiently. He's coming off screens. If he's open, he's shooting it. If he's not, he's moving it. And when he does that, he's at his best, and we're at our best.
Yeah, and we're seeing the efficient Klay Thompson, and the Warriors have needed it. And, yeah, it just – once the shots start going in for Klay and he just relaxes, and I don't know why it took him till the end of November last year and the middle of December this year to figure it out and relax, but it's just the reality. So hopefully that can continue and he doesn't feel the pressure of whatever contract he thinks he's going to need to get or the fact that he's chasing missed shots with more bad shots. He's found the right rhythm and balance, and the Warriors are winning, I think, in a big part, because of that. I mean, they need secondary scoring. It's when you get the secondary scorer, it allows everybody else's game to just relax. Then if you get 13 from this guy or 12 from that guy, it's enough. But when you're getting Steph do his 30-plus thing, and then the next thing is 16, it's 16, 10, 11, just like that. That's where it gets tough. But if you've got the 2 guys that can get you close to 60 or over 60, then you can have 3 guys that get you 12 to 15 or whatever, and you're cooking. And that's what the Warriors have been able to have.
I mean, there were 6 double-digit scores tonight, JD, and I know you're not going to have that kind of luxury every night, but when you get 28 from Klay Thompson, 27 from Steph Curry, 15 Podziemski, 11 Kuminga, 13 from Trace Jackson Davis, and then it looks like 11 from Moses Moody. Dario Saric was scratching on the surface of double figures, did not quite hit it. He had 8. That goes a long way. It's not sustainable for Steph Curry to be scoring 30 points a night if Klay Thompson and your second guy is not going to be doing as much.
I want to get back to the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line here from the 408. The young players are showing up. Draymond, Wiggins, and other vets need to earn their way back. Answering the question of the night here on the Sports Leader, we are starting to see the transition. We'll see about that. I think what we're seeing is young players taking advantage of an opportunity and play well. I think we do need to just take a deep breath on believing that there is a secondary core, basically because I'm not buying that the 2 timeline thing is still a thing, because the reality is we don't know that any of these young players at this point have the potential to be stars, but that's irrelevant right now. What we need is to be able to see if these young players can be quality role players on a team that views itself as being a contender with the veteran players leading the way. And that's been the thing that's flipped over the course of these last couple of weeks. It's the fact that Kuminga now is getting the job done with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And Trayce Jackson-Davis is putting an imprint on the game. And Podziemski's able to start with Steph and Klay and make a significant impact on things. So, yeah, the young players are definitely showing up. The 470, again, Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Warriors are back and put the rest of the league on notice. I think the rest of the league goes on notice officially if the Warriors win 2 of the next 3 games. They win on Christmas in Denver. Actually, it may only take 1 if that's the one. That would be a major league Warriors are back kind of a victory. And then the 865 Chef Curry playing like an MVP, carrying the dubs. He's carrying the dubs, but he has help for the first time since the first 2 weeks of the season, Greg.
No, you're absolutely right. We just alluded to the 6 double-digit scorers, and Klay Thompson has really become that number 2 offensive option, which, frankly, at this stage of his career, when you account for the injuries he had back-to-back, that wasn't something that was necessarily supposed to be expected of Klay Thompson. But here he is on a really hot streak, and he had another heater tonight. We got a couple more cuts on the Sounds of Silver before we move to break, and we're going to hear from the 2 rookies. Trayce Jackson-Davis is who we will go to first. He talks about the ball movement, and I know that we had a little bit of differing opinions, JD, on Trayce Jackson-Davis and his function on the team with the comparisons to Andrew Bogut. I will agree with you in that I don't know if his game is necessarily similar to Andrew Bogut, but I think how he plugs into the Warriors can be very similar to what we saw with Andrew Bogut as a secondary piece to your core of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and others, and now we're seeing the emergence of some of these young guys. So here's Trayce Jackson-Davis talking about the ball movement and that offensive IQ to get a great shot instead of a good one.
It's always a good shot to a great shot, and that's what we've been preaching. The ball movement, we got great shooters on our team, spacing the floor, drive, cut, pass, and then extras. And when you look at great teams, one that I think of is the Spurs, how they always had a good shot and they gave it up for a great shot. So we have a lot of unselfish guys, and we love moving the ball.
There you go. Now, do you think he really noticed the Spurs, or do you think he's heard Steve Kerr talk about the Spurs?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, both. Uh-huh. All good. Regardless, it's the way they got to play. And look, the ball movement today in this game was stellar. And you never want to have 9 turnovers in a quarter ever. And that was as ugly as any stretch that the Warriors had played this season. But to finish with 38 assists, and then you look up at the end of the night and you look at the Warriors had 9 turnovers for the rest of the game, which is absolutely on line with what's within the acceptable range. 9 in the first quarter, 9 over the final 3 quarters. You'll take averaging 3 turnovers a quarter, and that's more also in line with where the Warriors have been in these last couple of games with the turnovers and being able to limit them, which is obviously going to be critical to their success.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And Trayce Jackson-Davis is, of course, not the only rookie who's making a big impact. We're going to go to Brandon Podziemski for the final cut I have on the docket here. And you know how when you're covering the NFL, JD, Brock Purdy is young, but he's got a little kick to him. He's got a little swag. CJ Stroud is having a great rookie season. Got a little bit of swagger to him. Brandon Podziemski, he's a little cocky in a good way. He's the perfect amount of cocky where he's playing well enough for it to back up, but he's not in over his head. And he's using a little bit of we talk now with the other point guards, the 2 Hall of Fame point guards on this roster. He's talking about we talk, me, Steph, and CP3, and what we all look for in creating the offense. So I just thought that was some nice energy for a 5-game win streak. And without further ado, let's hear from Mr. Brandon Podziemski.
Me, him, and Steph are good at creating advantages for our teammates, and just kind of realizing when I'm out there with Chris, a lot of times teams are switching 1 through 5, and so finding Dario and Trayce down low, playing against our guards, and then letting them make the plays out of it is something that's been working for us a great amount. And when Trayce is down there and they're not switching, when they have Aiden or Reith in there, just attacking the rim. And like I said yesterday, Trey's always being an outlet for any of us. Just kind of got to throw up to the rim.
Yeah, and Pajemski's been able to do that. Steph Curry has been able to find Trace Jackson-Davis at different points, and he does provide that vertical spacing, which is so important and really an element that the Warriors haven't consistently had. All right, 808 KNBR, the number. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Warriors 126, Portland 106. We'll come back. We'll have some fun with numbers. We'll wrap things up. We'll go back to the YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody and a lot of conversations going back and forth in the YouTube chat. We appreciate that as we keep this show as interactive as possible. But, yeah, we'll take a look at some of the numbers from this one and some of the trends as far as where the Warriors are at. We'll also kind of go through the NBA tonight now that everything is final as the Warriors find themselves 15-14 after their win over the Blazers, 126-106. Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson. More straight ahead here on the Sports Leader.
Chef Curry to CP3, we're repping the Bays team. Dubs OT with John Dickinson now continues. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045. This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 1045 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
Oh, wow. Two great Warriors, too. That's great. I know Jamal was obviously special when he played at the Lakers. And Jason, one of the best athletes to ever put on a Warriors uniform. And that's just special. That's really cool.
All right, Klay Thompson from the post-game interview on NBC Sports Bay Area. Warriors win 126-106. Who is he talking about there, Greg? He was talking about, Jamal Wilkes. That one I got. I wasn't sure the other one. Okay. Yeah, Jay Rich. Always a fan favorite, obviously here in the Bay. 808 KNBR, the number, our final segment here. Fun with numbers on the Sports Leader. Taking a look at a lot of the things the Warriors did well in this one tonight. 5 in a row for Golden State, which ties their season-high win streak. 8 now in a row at home. So the Warriors have flipped the script on the home floor after getting off to just a horrendous start at home. The Warriors got off to the hot start on the road, and now it's basically been flipped. The Warriors have not won a lot away from Chase after the hot start, but they are winning at Chase in a big-time way. So the Warriors now 15-14 overall. They're 9-6 on the home floor, and that's after the 1-6 start. So, yeah. They've been able to get back into a better position based on the fact that they've been able to win those games. All right, 808 KNBR, we do have a phone call to get to here in just a moment, so we will do that as the Warriors get the win over the Blazers, 126-106. Warriors shot a season-high 57.8%. Their prior season high was in Sacramento in October, when the Warriors won in Sacramento, not the game where they blew the lead in November, but in October was that game number 2 of the season for the Warriors. Season high 38 assists, so when you're making shots, you're going to have a lot of assists as long as you're moving the ball. And the Warriors improved to what has been maybe the stat of the year for them. Small sample size, and also one that will typically remain being a small sample size. Warriors are 6-0, though, when they get 30 assists and shoot 50% from the field. So when you're making shots and moving the ball, this team really close to being unbeatable. But again, that's a feat that doesn't typically happen all the time. The other thing the Warriors did well is points in the paint. 62 points in the paint for the Warriors tonight. That is a season high, which bests their prior season high the night before Thanksgiving in Phoenix when the Warriors had 56 in the game where they got way down and it got close late before ultimately the Warriors fell in that one. And the Warriors are now 4-1 in the second game of back-to-backs, which is, wow, okay. 4-1 in the second game of back-to-backs for an older team, although, again, if you've watched the Warriors play of late, they are a younger team, and they've won a couple of back-to-backs, swept them both. Over the course of this last weekend, Saturday and Sunday last week, and then Friday and Saturday here over the last couple of games. So, yeah, Warriors able to sweep back-to-backs. They've swept 3 back-to-backs so far this season and 4-1 in the second set. 808 KNBR, let's go to Bill and Campbell on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD. What's going on tonight, Bill?
John, I miss you and Matt working together. What did he do? Retire on you, or what's going on there?
I left for bigger and better, my friend.
I love it when you two go back and forth. So look, I heard your opening. I was driving in the car and I thought, man, I got to give John a call. It's been a while since I called you, but when you were, laying it out there, I thought, oh my God. What you said with Draymond Green, I'm a psychotherapist and a basketball fan, and particularly a Warrior fan. And they have enabled him for so long. And the idea, it drives me crazy. I know Steve Kerr's psychology, but to keep saying, over the years, he's the heart and soul of our basketball team, I thought that's just not the way to go. Steph Curry is without a doubt the heart and soul of that team. And my friends keep bugging me and say, why don't you call that organization and tell them you'll work with him? I go, I've tried twice. But my point is, you play the best players. And Draymond's going to have to rough it. I mean, I could not. We've been wondering, why won't he play Trace Jackson Davis? That kid was fantastic in the preseason, and we thought, wow, we got a 6'8" power forward here who can score, rebound. He's going to help Looney so much, because poor Looney, last year it was Looney or nothing as far as those rebounds were going, and it's just like with what they've got going now, you just don't fix it if it's not broke. And I think, it's going to help to have CP3 back. And whatever was going on with Wiggins last year, it runs deep. I mean, he's a heck of a talent. And Draymond's going to have to come off the bench. These young guys are ready to roll. I mean, they gave away a couple games, just gave them away flat out. And that attitude of Draymond's, there's nobody chirping at the refs, let alone strangling anybody or kicking them. This is how basketball's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And
no,
what do you think?
I think.
Am I too hard on him here?
No, and I appreciate our conversations over the years about it, because it's been real thoughtful, and obviously you have more of an expertise in it than I do. To be clear,
I think you outlined it pretty good.
But at this point, I think this is the first time, Bill, where the Warriors find themselves truly having success with an alternate group. And so,
right.
And so that's it's always the what it makes me think of is, Harrison Barnes was a really good player for the Warriors, helped them win a championship, solid, steady player, but
good guy,
guy, great, top to bottom, all of those things. But the Warriors also, as they looked at their team, thought, you know what? This is a position where we can probably we probably want to upgrade, right? Nothing against Harrison Barnes, but we probably want a little bit more. Well, you don't make the move off of a Harrison Barnes unless you can get a Kevin Durant, right? Like, if you can't get that guy, then you stick it out with Harrison Barnes. Well, so it becomes what I like to, it's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer that you're going to go get Kevin Durant for Harrison Barnes, and nobody's going to feel bad about it. I think what's slowly happening here with this is, and I don't think we're to the point where it's a no-brainer, but I think for the first time, the Warriors are having, and we'll see how the next couple of weeks go, but they're having success without him at a high clip. And again, it's basically 5 games, but if it continues, let's say over the next 10 to where they're 8-2 or something like that, and all of these guys continue to play well, then I do think it becomes an easy, natural transition, much the way that going away from David Lee became an easy transition when Draymond basically took his spot back in the day.
That's exactly right. That's a great analogy there. Because, here he was an all-star, former all-star, a good guy, but it was obvious that Draymond at that point was the better player. And right now, without him here, the cohesiveness of the team, I mean, this is where the so-called therapy part comes in. The energy that they're playing with, the fact that they're focused on basketball and not having to deal with the press and the drama. I mean, look at the 49ers, for God's sakes, they're right. They got a chance here to rebuild with these younger guys and take that next step. If the 7-1 center would have turned out, I mean, we would have been going, wow, what a transition. And if he didn't screw up his knee, who knows? I mean, that kid was here at 19, and unfortunately, he just never really recovered to be the player we thought he might be. But they've made these moves, and you got to pat him on the back.
No, you do. And look, I think we'll see what happens. And thank you, Bill. I appreciate you checking in, Bill and Campbell here on the Sports Leader. Look, time will tell on this whole thing. I mean, if Draymond's going to be out, let's say another 10 games, and this team continues to play at a high level, then he is going to have to come off the bench. It doesn't mean he can't be on the team or isn't going to be a starter at some point this season, because the Warriors are still, in my mind, the best version of themselves when Draymond Green is playing and playing at a high level. But I don't think anybody would deny in the short term, I don't think anybody would deny that the Warriors have kind of been reinvigorated by the fact that Draymond Green isn't around and isn't on the and there just isn't that cloak of what the heck's going to happen next. There was just such an angst around the Warriors, and I think Klay Thompson was bringing it based on his attitude on the court and some of the shots that he would take, and Draymond was bringing it based on getting himself suspended. So again, short term, I do feel like it's been kind of a breath of fresh air. Long term, they still need Draymond Green to be the best version of themselves. And he was still playing at a high level when he was available. And so I think it's just a matter of how do you meld him and Wiggins and GP2 back into the fold to where you're still able to get the contributions that you're getting from the younger players. That's the key. All right, more fun with numbers here on The Sports Leader. Klay Thompson, 28 points. How about Klay? At least 20 in 7 of the last 8 games, including the last 6. So Klay Thompson's hot. 11th 20-point game of the season for Klay Thompson. Podziemski, second career double-double, and he was flirting with a triple-double, as we talked about earlier here on Dubs OT. 15 points, 10 boards, 7 assists. 6th time this season he's had at least 10 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists. So he's been a 10, 5, and 5 guy pretty regularly, and that's the most that any rookie in the NBA has been able to do that. Chris Paul did not shoot it well tonight, but he still had his 11 assists. CP3, 11 assists in this one. 3rd consecutive game with 11 assists off the bench. Only 1 turnover. Only 1. It was a bad one, too, early, but only 1. And so Chris Paul, you look at, it was the 8-second violation. Yep. That's exactly right. Although I thought he had a bad pass as well, but no, he was the 8-second. No, because there was only 1, and that has to be what it was. So tough one there. 11 assists for the 3rd straight game. First Warriors player to accomplish that since 1970. That according to Elias. We talked about Kevon Looney. Game high 11 rebounds. 9th time this season he's been in double figures rebounding. And, of course, Looney playing in his 222nd consecutive regular season game. Up that number to 257 if you count all the playoff games. Stephen Curry, 27. 3rd straight game with 25 or more. And Trace Jackson Davis, not a double-double for TJD, but he did have 13 points to go with 5 boards and 3 assists. Jonathan Kuminga, not the night he's had of late, but I think still an impactful night for Jonathan Kuminga with a season-high 5 assists. And Kuminga's looking to distribute a little bit more, make the right basketball play. I think somebody on the YouTube chat had said, hey, Kuminga, it feels like, or it looks like the game's slowing down for Kuminga. I think that's fair. It looks like the game's slowing down and he's making quicker decisions, but making quicker decisions without making him in a panic. 20-point win, largest margin of victory for the Warriors at home this season, and only the 2nd home win for the Warriors by double digits. And you remember when the other one was? Been last night. Yeah, last night against Washington. And only the 2nd time this year that the Warriors have won back-to-back games by double digits, as the Warriors tonight winning by 20, also their 2nd highest margin of victory on the season to the 28-point blowout back on October 30th in New Orleans. So good stuff from the Warriors tonight, and now we'll start to see them get tested. Now we'll start to see him get tested. All right, final couple of minutes. I want to get back into the YouTube chat here and just say goodnight to everybody. Appreciate the folks sticking out. Rebel to Sounds, spending time watching film is paying off for Kuminga. Yeah, Kuminga's been spectacular. Lev chiming in. There was a chat going on about the schedule. Warriors have had a really difficult schedule to this point and have kicked away 4 wins. Remember my rule on that. Anytime if you want to say 4, it's really 2. But even if you say 2, it's 17-12, and 17-12 would put them 17-12 would put them 5th and a half game out of 4th. As is, the Warriors are, for the first time in a long time, back in the top 10 in the Western Conference. Now, yeah, nobody's going and having a party down. Nobody's having a party down Battery Street at 15-14, but it's a hell of a lot better than 10-14. And anybody want to guess who the odd team out is right now as far as the play-in tournament? We know San Antonio and Portland and Utah stink. Memphis has probably dug too big a hole that even with Ja Morant back, they're going to be able to climb out of it to be a play-in team. But there's that one spot. There's going to be one team this year in the Western Conference that absolutely for sure believes they're a playoff team that's not going to make the play-in tournament. And that team, unfortunately, for the last 2 weeks has basically been the Warriors until tonight. Who did the Warriors pass? Who is the team on the outside looking in? It's Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and I guess Bradley Beal, although he doesn't play. So it's the Phoenix Suns at 14-14. The Phoenix Suns would not even be in the play-in tournament right now, although they have handed it to the Warriors a couple of times down in the Valley. But yeah, Phoenix 14-14 on the outside looking in. The Lakers got a big win tonight. Their first victory in a while. They broke their losing streak. Lakers won in Oklahoma City, so a nice win, 129-120. Minnesota won in Sacramento tonight, 110-98. So Sacramento went in and won at Minnesota during the in-season tournament group play games. And then Minnesota returns the favor. They win in Sacramento. So those two teams have played twice, and they've split 2 with the road team winning each game. So Minnesota, 110-98, the victory in Sacramento. Both teams that have been playing really good basketball, and the Kings, especially of late, they thumped Phoenix last night. So Minnesota, though, all the way up to 22-6, and that 22-6 is right there with Boston, also 22-6. We talked earlier about the Celtics 145-108 win over the Clippers in Los Angeles. Yeah, I did see LeBron. Going for 40 in the game tonight on 13 of 20 with 7 rebounds and 7 assists. LeBron's a week away from being 39. Sheesh. Week away from being 39. Fozzie on the YouTube chat, I just saw this pop up. JD, take a shot. Not before I got to hit the road. But I will have one when I get home. I'll make you a deal, Fozzie. I'll have one when I get home, and tomorrow, no work for your guy. I can't remember when the last JD off day was, but the next, I can tell you the next one is starting here in about 2 minutes. So, Fozzie, you have my word, I'll have a shot. I'll have one tonight, and I might have a couple tomorrow. Hanging with the family. Might be a little whiskey tonight, actually. Rocking New Era 84. Usually it's Tito's. Usually it's a little vodka soda. But, you know, and when you get to this time of year, maybe a little J-Mo and ginger. Maybe a little Jack single barrel. Just a little sipper. No, but yeah, tomorrow, can't wait. Can't wait for a football Sunday. Niners are playing Monday. Warriors are playing Monday. It's going to be spectacular. Can't wait for that. And we're going to have Dubs OT on Monday. Probably, and we're still waiting on confirmation on this, but I believe Dubs OT on Monday is going to be the first YouTube only because we got 49ers here on the Sports Leader. So look forward to that and everybody having a good time on the YouTube chat. Yeah, Crown's good. I like that. Fozzie, Merry Christmas, brother. Merry Christmas to you. Enjoy that drink, JD. Enjoy the time off. Man, I just cannot be any more appreciative to everybody that's joined in here on the YouTube stream and in the YouTube chat. Really appreciate, rocking New Era 84. Enjoy that drink. Yeah, gotta get home first. Been a long few weeks here, but absolutely enjoying it. Making the move over here to the Sports Leader. All right, so that'll do it. We'll call it a night on that note. Big thanks to Raf Corral. Big thanks to Greg Silver. Did we have anybody else here tonight? It was just a two-person show tonight between you two. Excellent work. Want to thank, just everybody for listening and calling in and participating on the text line and the YouTube chat. It's just been a blast here as we approach the first month since I've come over here and been a big part of the Warriors coverage at the Sports Leader, been a big part of the Niner coverage here at KNBR as well. So, to everybody out there, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the next couple of days, and then we will reconvene on Monday as the Warriors will take on the Nuggets in Denver right at the final horn. And then the 49ers and the Ravens. Just a clash of the freaking Titans at Levi's Stadium on Monday night. Can't wait for that one as well here on KNBR. So that'll do it. Warriors win 126-106. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody. We'll talk to you on Monday. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.